So how many people know about data centers in general? So we are that, but we're not that. And basically, as it says, not all data centers are engineered the same, and that's important. We started out as regular customers of data centers and workers and employees of other data centers. And we basically just got tired of the reasons to give clients as to why things happen and why things break. So this facility was engineered from the ground up with very highly skilled engineers in the electrical and mechanical industry, and basically to break, but not actually take down production environment for clients. So we don't get those calls. With that said, we've been around since 2000. We're Broward County based, privately held. We do have infrastructure that is in Broward and Miami-Dade and Atlanta and Chicago. So a lot of times nowadays we hear clients saying, we want to move to the cloud, we want to move to the cloud, we want to move to the cloud. And that's all fine and dandy. On the technical terms, it's really infrastructure as a service, IaaS. No matter how you look at it, whether it's public cloud, private cloud, co-location, dedicated servers, managed servers, VPSs, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, the client's going to say, I want to move to the cloud, irregardless of cost factors, irregardless of what it is and what it's not. For the same sake, we always hear, I want to move to MPLS. MPLS is a great keyword. How many heard that with customers, where they always want to move to MPLS? Because that's like the best thing ever. It's very secure. No, it's not. It's a protocol, but, huh?
SD-WAN is what they're saying now.
SD-WAN, SD-WAN. Yes, exactly. We'll go into that too, SD-WAN. But inherently, SD-WAN and MPLS are not secure. You have to do other things to make it secure. So this particular slide just shows that as far as at the bottom layer of cloud, infrastructure as a service, whatever it is, there's always a co-location. It's always physical. The cloud at the end of the day, as sad as it is, it's not up in the sky. It's just somebody else's computer, not yours. So it's a push on liability, not reliability. So, this is a nice picture of not our facility. I think somebody asked that. And a lot of these clients come in and they're like, what the hell do I need a cloud for? What do I need colo for? I have this server closet in my office, and my IT guy could just go in the room and just open it up and does whatever he needs, and it's fixed, no problem. Yeah, and your disgruntled employee could also go inside and pour a gallon of water on it too. But that's one issue. But the biggest issues I see, other than the physical security in offices, is when you're actually building a reliable infrastructure inside your office, you need to think about, if there's a storm, we just had one, power restoration, internet restoration. That stuff takes time, as we saw, regardless of the size of the storm. Speaking to the contacts that I have at FPL, and initially before the storm hit, they were as a category 4 or 5, they were telling me, we were going to have 4.2 million people out. Like that's 90+% of your client base. Are you serious? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. This was before it even hit the news and everything else. It didn't hit us as a 4. They still had 90% off. And it's understandable because we had a pretty big storm, 5th largest in recorded history in the Atlantic. Anyway, a real UPS. A lot of times people go and buy these PowerWare or APC UPSs. They stick them at the bottom of the racks and I'm protected, no problem. I'm not going to get into it, but those are inline interactive UPSs that cost a couple $100 versus a double conversion UPS, which costs a lot more. And there is specific instances of inline interactive only protects you from about 7 different surges and issues, whereas double conversion protects you from about 20-some different power issues. Generators, people are like, I'm just going to buy a generator, whether it's a roll-up or whatnot. I mean, how many people have a generator at home? How many people tried to turn it on? And how many people did it not turn on? Exactly. There's always one. Because you have to do maintenance. These things don't just work on their own. You have to drain it if it's gasoline based, because otherwise it gets eaten up, and there's a lot of problems. And insurance, some of them are like, I've got this huge generator at the office. We'll never go down. Well, if you have more than 550 gallons, then you have to get this thing called insurance for pollution for the EPA. I found this out the hard way. Connectivity. Connectivity as far as either transit or transport, when you're getting fiber to the building, it's expensive. Whether you're going with Crown Castle, whether you're going with AT&T, FPL, Fiberlight, it is expensive. It's still a necessity, but overall it is an expensive cost, and the client has to bear that. So it is an option. And after that is purpose-built air conditioning units. I see a lot of times where I've seen gone into offices and they have this closet and they get their AC guy to duct in an extra 3 ducts into this. I'm like, well, is that a dedicated AC? No, we just keep the AC running all day. Well, that's a huge cost in power because you're running it 24/7. And if you don't run it 24/7 at night, that room becomes a sauna. Fire suppression. Well, sprinklers are always a good thing. Water is not. So fire suppression, you want to have some type of gas-based system, some type of inert system. And all this at the end of the day, it costs money, and a lot of it. And sometimes it's kind of cost prohibitive to have your infrastructure at the office. Now, this has been a challenge in the past because fiber, even though it's expensive nowadays, it was extremely expensive before. And today, getting fiber to the data center is a lot more achievable than it used to be, regardless of what I said a couple minutes ago. But it was still a very big issue back then. Nowadays, with SD-WAN and tunnels and VPNs and broadband and everything else, you can actually get your application in the cloud, colocation, whatever it is, and still access it at a good speed. So, who are we exactly? And what is colocation, infrastructure as a service? There's a lot of data centers out there. A lot of them are engineered differently, but at the end of the day, they all talk about physical security. So, stopping somebody from going to pour a gallon of water on something. Space, power, connectivity, and then on top of that is the managed services. Most data centers in South Florida do not provide the managed services. They tell you to contact an MSP company to go in there and do the work for them. So as far as what we offer basically all of that, and then on managed services, we have the firewalls, the high availability. If you need to build a cluster that's for an application that requires the ability to have 75% of the infrastructure to go down while your application's still up, that requires engineering and requires a lot of personnel and brain power. Disaster recovery, business continuity. So DRBC is another big hitter today, and clients are asking for it more and more, is that hurricane come, hurricane passes. They go to the office, they have no internet, and they have no power, and they don't know when it's going to come back. And so DRBC is basically something that we offer, which is cubicles and private offices to where they can actually come in, sit down, and continue to do their business. And this is completely different than, let's say, a Regis that's also offering DRBC, because Regis is a regular building. It's an office building that is going to be affected by the storm just like any other office building. So what I mean by that is, storm hits, their power is down, their internet is down. It's regardless that you could go in there and sit down and with a laptop, you're not going to do anything. With us, at least, we have the generators, we have the internet connectivity, we're there and we're purpose built for it. So there's a couple different variations of cloud or dedicated infrastructure and private infrastructure, private cloud as you would call it. So one of the things we offer is both public and private. So in private cloud, what we do is we actually go and make sure that all the infrastructure that we provide to you is dedicated. From the CPU horsepower to the memory to the storage, and it can be done on bare metal or it can be done hypervisor based. And you also have somebody to call. I mean, have you ever called AWS for support? There's nobody to talk to. We've put in some bug reports and they say thank you, but there's nobody to actually talk to about anything. On top of that, you're sharing your virtual server with 20 other people, 30, 40 other people on the same box. So you don't have dedicated hardware. And that's basically the difference between public cloud and private cloud. Now, we do have a public cloud offer as well, just like Amazon does. And it's advantageous for clients that have applications that are latency aware. So, for example, if they have Crown Castle as their internet provider, well, we connect to Crown Castle too. We have two 10 gig links to them. So between anywhere to anywhere in South Florida, between any location in South Florida to us going over Crown Castle, for example, it's 3 milliseconds versus going to AWS Virginia where you're at 40, 50 milliseconds round trip. So information going back and forth is 10 times faster as far as latency is concerned. And I was going to go through the video, but I think we'll be running out of time. This particular video shows basically how in 5 minutes you could log in.
You have time?
All right,
How long is the video?
5 minutes, but I wasn't going to go through the whole video.
Oh, no.
Hour and a half. Haha, doesn't want to load.
So at the local level, Volico provides colo, dedicated servers, which is basically, we'll build a private cloud for a client, and then we have your public cloud.
Yay. Okay. So under our Vol Networks brand, basically we have VN on demand, which is virtual machines on demand. And the panel is pretty simple. You go in, you want to start a new machine, you click, I want to start a new box. You put in your label, whatever you want to call it, whether it's going to be your web server, SQL server, application server. You choose the operating system. You choose how much RAM, CPU, data storage, everything else, however you want it. You build it exactly how you want it. It tells you how much it costs. That cost is a monthly basis, even though the actual cost is on an hourly basis. It's calculated hourly. You put in your username and password, credit card if you haven't done so. You click next. And basically, you're done.
And this is automated so that either you could do it or your client can do it themselves if they want to build a cloud type of solution. But we can also help them and walk them through it and do it for them. But we want to try to be as automated as possible.
Yeah, this is 100% automated.
You guys can get paid on that if they do it.
Yes. So one of the differences between this and other public cloud providers is that when you go to a public cloud, you go in, you hit new machine, you already have templates, and that template has already predefined CPU, memory, disk, and you've got this box and you're stuck in this box. You cannot just make this box however wide or high or long or however which dimension you want. In this architecture, you can, because it's all built and based individually. And the client has this access. He goes in, does whatever he wants. He doesn't need to call anybody. He can if he wants to. There's actually a human on the other line. But it's just something very fast and just on demand. So back to where we were.
If the customer has a bare metal backup, can they actually feed you the image?
Yes. So it depends how they're building it. It depends how they're doing it, because there's some people that use Dota, some people use Veeam. We would have to pre-design it with them because we have to create templates that will actually boot up their restore application. So let's say with R1, which is one of the backup infrastructures, we would show them how under the templates, when they build a new server, they'll go in under the boot up and they'll say, I want to boot this as an R1. It'll boot up as R1 and they'll say, okay, well now put in your backup server IP, put in this, and it will communicate to the backup server, then the backup server will go and push the backup back to restore. So, back to this. So one of the things is there's also a hybrid. And what is a hybrid? So we talked about public cloud. Public cloud is shared infrastructure. You're sharing your infrastructure with other clients. Private cloud is dedicated infrastructure, and you're not sharing anything with other clients at all. Hybrid cloud is basically both. You can have both dedicated infrastructure and shared. We have clients that have co-location, where they bring in their own servers, and their own servers are running their beefy SQL processes that have to be stateful. It's processes that can't go down and have to stay up 24 hours a day. And then they have their stateless side of the application where they need intermittent horsepower to crunch numbers for clients during the day, and at night they'll shut it off. So their web and application servers will be virtual machines, and their physical SQL server will be a dedicated box. Beyond this, we could also utilize different SD-WAN technologies and cross-connect them into Crown Castle, FiberLight, AT&T, Comcast, whatever fiber provider they may have MPLS or Metro E back to their office. So they have a private VLAN directly to their infrastructure. It's basically gluing everything together and moving their infrastructure from in-house that's very vulnerable into a data center cloud environment that is built to be resilient and secure. So, well, that's kind of what I spoke about. So right now, as a standard telecom agent coming into an office, they'll be selling them transit, direct internet access, or transport, which is going to be MPLS, Metro E, VXVLAN, whatever technology they're going to use, or voice over IP, or nowadays also Office 365 for their Outlook. And that's where the telecom consultant kind of stops. I mean, there's other things here and there, but in general, that's the term for the telecom. And with products like Volico and other providers, Verizon, AT&T, FiberLight, Comcast, Crown Castle, etc. Oh, I thought I had a Crown Castle, but I couldn't find a logo. But the idea is to tie this, go into an office and be able to understand their pains and gains. They don't want to deal with 20 different companies. They want to deal with as little companies as possible, to deal with as little as invoices as possible, and they don't want to have finger pointing. And this is something that we work hand in hand with basically every provider. We're a carrier neutral facility, so we don't mind working with any provider, and we actually enjoy it at the end of the day. We rather work with them all the time. With this in mind, this will open up, as a telecom consultant, could open up to offer things like managed or unmanaged colocation, public cloud, private cloud. And what I mean by managed colocation is one of the things that differentiate us from other facilities, even as big as the Terramark facility, is go ask for a screwdriver. I mean, I've been at 3 o'clock in the morning and I needed a Phillips, number 2 Phillips screwdriver, and I had a number 1 Phillips. And as stupid as that sounds, you go there and they're like, oh, call this 800 number for support. You call the 800 number, and the guy's like, how do you spell Phillips? Like, are you kidding? And I got pretty heated, because when they finally sent an actual technician down, 45 minutes to an hour later to my cage over there, they're like, we don't give Phillips. Like, you're telling me in a 600,000 square foot building you have no Phillips screwdrivers? He's like, no, we don't. And it got settled, but it's a thing where most facilities don't even give you a screwdriver, let alone a cart to actually cart your stuff through. But with what I mean by manage is, we have clients that have issues and they're remote. They could be in South America. They could be in Miami. They could be wherever. And we're able to help them anything from a physical hard drive change to a network change to an operating system change to diagnose an application level all the way down to kernel level execution of the process.
That's key, because a lot of data centers will not go as far as we do with the smart hand support. That's where we definitely differentiate ourselves from the other facilities down here in South Florida. It's the support that we handle.
Yeah. Other than that, managed security, next generation firewalls, UTMs, SD-WANs, VPNs back and forth to their office, or Roadrunner VPNs. These are things that we support, whether as a service or as an a la carte. We do provide that as well. Managed backups. I think you talked about backups. We have different backup variations that we offer ourselves, or we help manage clients with their own backup infrastructure. Firewalls, one of the things that we do is we partner up with Fortinet, and we utilize Fortinet right now as another product where, for example, we have, like a healthcare company that has, or a bank that has 10 locations or 5 locations, and they want to interconnect all their locations plus their data center. And it become expensive because now they need 10 Fortinet firewalls. Well, Fortinet 100E is about, with all said and done, about $3,500 or $4,000, with all the different little services that you could add on to a UTM and antivirus and anti-malware and whatever it is. So you got 10 locations, that's $40,000 in hardware. We have the ability to go in and actually utilize a Fortinet at the data center and create tunnels using SD-WAN to their offices over whatever internet connectivity they may have, whether they're using Comcast, whether you're using Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, Crown Castle, FiberLight, whoever they're using, even Sling. Sling is another product that's a wireless product. But no matter what they're using, you could VPN back using tunnels, IPsec tunnels, etc., and just have one device at the data center level versus having 10. And that's something that's been actually hitting pretty good with us, with clients, because they don't want to buy $40,000 worth of equipment. You tell them, just buy 4,000. They're like, ooh, okay. It's a lot different. And on top of all that, it's also configuring it. These firewalls are a Swiss Army knife for security. They could do anything and everything as long as the horsepower is there and as long as you know how to do it. We find that a lot of clients will go in and configure their firewalls because that's how they've been taught, and they're configuring them not like a firewall, but like a router. And that may not sound too bad overall, because we're used to having these Linksys firewall routers at our houses, but when you're talking about stateless firewalls such as Fortinets or Sonic walls, it's a big difference from a performance perspective as well as from compliance. From here,
Jennifer, how much time do we have?
5-10 minutes.
Perfect, thank you.
all yours.
So as Gotti kind of went over the more of a technical aspect of the data center, let me put this aside, States, put it in perspective. These are, instead of listing verticals and just saying these are the verticals you can go after, here's a couple example of clients that we have. And if you look at the first three, you have e-commerce, marketing, and healthcare. These three clients, one went with co-location, one went public cloud, and private cloud. Now, when you're out there talking to your clients, and my goal here today is to show you things that you could do differently to open the door for more revenue in your pocket. Because if you're out there just selling telecom, that's great. And sometimes, I get it, I don't want to sell services I'm not familiar with. You just don't want to deal with it. But I want to make it easier for you. So I'm going to talk about two products, and that's backup and firewall services. But if you take a look at these different opportunities that we've actually worked on, the ones with the minus, and then you go to the plus, like for example, financial bank, they got managed firewall, they got managed backup, and they got business continuity disaster recovery. In addition to one of the other three, our co-location, our public cloud, or our private cloud. I get a lot of quotes sent to me, or they send me the specs for co-location. They'll send ping power in space is what I call it. I get that, and what happens is you'll send that out to multiple data centers just to get a quote, and that's great. Most of the time we're going to lose that. So I want to take it a step further. If you give me the ability to talk to your client, and I'm going to use an example here. If you look at the under engineering, here's a client that came to us, and all they wanted when they requested it was a quarter rack. It was a $400 deal, quarter rack with 10 amps of power and I think 50 megs of IP. Nevertheless, it was $400. But once we sat down with this client and discovered more things about what their needs were, because they actually went down during the hurricane. They had no internet, they had no phones. Their Tampa office could not contact or connect to any of the databases in their servers. So once we sat down with them, we turned that $400 deal into a $1,400 deal just by that simple conversation. That I don't want you guys to have to do it. I just want you to open the door. You're out there talking to these clients, and whether you're an MSP or an agent, an MSP, we want to take the workload off you. As far as with an agent goes, just pass it over to us. We'll do the questions, we'll process the sales for you, and you can make money. But it's not just about co-location, cloud, and dedicated servers. It's those other services that we provide that are sticky and will help you gain more trust with your client. What am I hitting here? Enter? There we go. So some of the channel partner benefit, that's what I do. And I have Michael in the back. He handles marketing. So whether you're an MSP or agent, we do a lot more. We're hands-on. We will support you. We go to market material packages. So for example, you have a client base and you want to do a promotion to open the door for maybe firewall services, co-location, cloud, whatever. We'll put the content together. We'll put the marketing material together with you, and you can send that out to your clients. We'll even create some type of promotion for you. So our marketing department is very hands-on. I worked with some MSPs over the last few months, and we would send out 2,000 to 3,000 email blasts to clients that are LinkedIn, so that they wanted these emails, and your logo would be on there, and our logo would be on there. And it's opening the door to more opportunities. You go in there and you sell whatever your specific services. It could be telecom, you could be a managed service provider, and you can work with us to go after other services, sticky products, I like to call them. So Michael in the back will help us with that if you guys call me and we can talk about it, and we'll take it a step further. Sales, I handle the sales. We do have other people in our department to help that. I'll manage the sales cycle. I don't expect you to go out there and try to sell colo, cloud, dedicated service, or anything, unless you want to. It's up to you how you want to handle that opportunity. If you just pass it off to our team, we'll take it from there for you, and we'll manage the entire sales cycle so that you can go out and do whatever you need to do, and we'll keep you in the loop. It's really up to you how you want us to manage it. You'll have sales engineer support as well, and quarterly bonuses. So right now we have a quarterly bonus going on. You may be aware of it already, you may not, and we're going to do this every quarter to incentivize you guys to go out there and make more money. So this month or this quarter, we're doing cloud. You'll get 100% upfront. I can't read this, I'm blind. 100% on dedicated servers, 75% on managed services. That's where the money is, and 50% on co-location. You're going to see more revenue with the other services than you would with just colo, and that's where we go in and we start talking to the client and building on those simple ping, power, and space services that they wanted. So don't forget the bonus. The partner support, you will have a direct line. You can call me. I have my business card out there. You can contact TCG. We do training support and technical support. So let's go back to what Gotti was talking about. He was talking about hypervisors and things like technical guru stuff that I'm not an expert on, and I don't expect you guys to be. But it's those opportunities that we get in and we start talking to them and drilling down those technical questions. Here's a good example. We got a lead from TCG, thank you by the way, actually a very good one. And the customer was on a cloud platform. But what he requested from us was the same thing, but on a dedicated server. And that cloud platform was what, like a 70 grand, 80 grand type of platform that you uncovered when you were talking to him yesterday.
Yeah, it was the equivalent of an $80,000 Dell server, basically.
Yeah, but that's not what the customer really needed. So we get these questions, or they send the specs, and we look at them and say, this guy's crazy, he doesn't need this. But they want a quote. We'll send a quote, and it's going to be way off budget. Their budget was $1,500 a month, and the server I designed for them was $3,000. It was way over budget, but that's because the specs that he asked were not really what he needed, and it was our job to educate him on them. And that's where we come in. So we drill down on those opportunities to take it to another level, not just selling them colo, not just selling them maybe a cloud, but it could be all three and more. Start the dialogue. And real simple, I don't know the expertise level in here, but here's some simple questions for managed security. You can do this on your way out after you just closed the deal and selling them telecom services. Who is managing the firewall? What about the invested resources? Managing a firewall is not as simple as it sounds. There is a lot of work you have to do behind the scenes to keep it up to date. And that takes a lot of resources, especially from MSP guys. They don't want to spend a lot of time on that. They have other things to do. What about your virtual and cloud environment? Are they protected? Just because they're on AWS doesn't mean it's protected. So it's those questions that can open the door and lead to another opportunity for you guys so you can continue selling your other services. We want to take that off your plate. Manage backups. Another few questions here. Are you able to recover all your systems and data in the event of a failure? A lot of customers never test their backup. They don't even know if it's working sometimes. The larger customers do, but if you get in with some smaller clients down here that have 10, 20 employees, they may not have the knowledge to know if it's really working. And when a disaster happens, it fails. So just a simple question like that could...
Well, they may not have the resources.
Yeah.
Their business is to continue doing what they know. And they don't know DR, they don't know colo, they don't know cloud. It's not their prerogative to do so. Their prerogative is to continue to sell. We've dealt with customers that are very, very big Fortune X companies, and their IT department just lacks because they just grew so fast and so far, and then they get hit with something. Whether it's a compliance issue, whether it's a licensing issue, whether it's just a security or a technical issue. They just grew so fast and they just don't have the resources. And MSPs come into play into that, to where you bring in an MSP company and everything else. But MSP companies also need to grow their own business. So things like the managed firewall, managed backups, is something that we do because we dedicate people to it. Backups are great. You could go and buy backups from Mozy and Carbonite and all that for $5 a month. It doesn't necessarily mean it's an enterprise backup. It doesn't mean it's secure, and it doesn't mean it works all the time when you actually want it and need it. And that's one of the things is it takes a long time. There's a lot of different policies and controls that you have to put in place that when you're managing people's data, whether it's your data or somebody else's. You have to verify that it works. You have to test it. You have to create different policies and controls to go in and verify it. And these are the things that we're seeing and the pains and gains that we're seeing with clients. They're growing, but their pains is that their infrastructure is standing still.
So, to kind of recap everything, Volico is, yes, it's a data center. But I like to think of it as a boutique data center because the way we design things for customers, just going back to that simple example, ping-powered space, we can turn that into something else. Not all opportunities will. The customer just needs ping-powered space and that's it. But if we get in there and start talking to them, we'll discover more and we'll design something specific, engineer something specific to their business. And that's what's really great about what we do. And when I get these opportunities, we'll take it to the next level. So what I'm asking you guys to do is don't spend your time trying to figure out what they need sometimes. Just ask those a few questions and bring us into it. But to recap some of the products and services, we talked about colo, we talked about private and public cloud, we talked about dedicated servers. How many of you are familiar with those services that we're talking about? You sold it or you're familiar with it, you've kind of helped customers with that? Okay. Managed firewall, business continuity, disaster recovery, that's another subject we'll get in. It's not just about having seats and suites that you can go to. It's a more, the discussion goes further beyond that, meaning it talks about the security, it talks about the backups, it talks about the high availability. If something happens to their server, what else do they have to back that up? That's the discussion we'll get into to make sure that they're running optimally. All right, so, and monitor services. Last
Who are the
thing.
carriers you guys are lit with, by the way, at both your facilities?
We get that question a lot. So we're a small tier 1 carrier. We own our own fiber. We have our use for fiber from different companies, such as Crown Castle, Fiberlight, etc. And we also tier at multiple locations across the U.S. So, I mean, just down here in South Florida, we have over 50 BGP sessions to multiple providers. So we are technically our own provider. But,
so if these guys want to bring in, they want to buy your cabinets or your facilities, and they want to bring in their own carrier.
We're
they
carrier
can bring
neutral.
in FBL, they can bring in level 3.
Anyone.
Yep.
Whatever. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah,
Doesn't
it's a
matter.
cross connect for us.
That's what's a question, because they'll make more money doing it themselves versus, sometimes different ways.
And that's great.
Of course.
We
You don't
encourage
care,
that.
right?
Yes, yeah, like I stated before 15 minutes ago, so we're a carrier neutral facility, meaning that we love working with carriers. We don't have any issues. FPL FiberNet, now Crown Castle, comes in. We have 48 strands coming from the east, 48 strands coming from the west, one going to their West Palm Beach pop, one going to their Fort Lauderdale 2 pop, etc. And it goes on for carrier and carrier and carrier.
And if they just want bandwidth with the cabinet, you'll do that as well, no big deal?
Yeah.
Can they choose carriers they want?
Yeah, exactly. As carrier neutral, they could go and contact them. No
But
problem.
you guys can supply them with the carriers, correct? As part of that facility?
Well, if they get our bandwidth, they're getting our mix. We have a
Sure.
very, very big mix, and we also use a lot of, let's call it software-defined networking architectures inside to make sure that our routes and our traffic is optimized. We make approximately 10,000 changes to our routing per 24 hours automatically. Whether it's a black hole halfway in the middle of the internet, whether it's whatever it is, using Cisco OER, optimized edge routing, performance-based routing, and the internet flow control protocols. We utilize that to actually manipulate our BGP routing tables. Approximately 10,000 prefixes per 24 hours. So
DDoS protection too.
It's pretty.
Oh, good point.
It's kick-ass,
yeah,
man.
DDoS as well. We're able to mitigate a DDoS attack between 5 to 7 seconds. It's done, regardless of the size. We've gotten hit with 2 gigabit per second attack, 10, 20, 40, 100, 200 gigs. It's all mitigated using different things like RTBH, remote trigger black holing, and other different factors.
I know a lot of you guys are looking for lower costs sometimes, South Florida, cheaper prices than the bigger players, the level 3s of the world, whoever, these are realties, all those guys, so these guys are pretty competitively priced, and they got a good network, and, you know, sometimes, you know, you're looking for those out of the box, that's what these guys are, they do a
Yeah.
good job.
Thank you. So, you know, I'll leave you with this. I'm on the sales side. I support you guys. That's how I make my money, is by supporting you so that you close deals. Consider Volico an extension of your team. Consider our marketing department, myself, an extension of your team. If you have ideas or things that you think can open the doors for your business as well as ours, let me know. We'll sit down and we'll have that discussion. Because at the end of the day, we're here to make money. So thank you. We appreciate your time. Any